Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do something just like a tiny bit different. Obviously we're gonna do an eye makeup look. And what I wanted to do today was play around with eyeshadows that A, I never really use, and B, I wanted to kind of put together a look not really knowing what I'm going into. And what I mean by that is I have this Z palette here that has 3 different eyeshadows in it. These are all Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. I have Modern Renaissance, I have Subculture, and I have Soft Glam all put into this palette along with this single pink champagne. I know what that one is. But when I depotted these palettes, what I did was I actually didn't arrange them by palette. I arranged them just kind of in various like color stories. So I put like, you know, like my lighter pops here, more like transition shades in here, deeper kind of rosier colors. We've got some like blues and purples and greens and blacks and stuff like that down at the bottom. So it all creates kind of like a nice gradient. And I think that most of them actually are labeled on the bottom of each individual pan. So I thought what I would do today is I would go ahead and create an eye look, just kind of dipping in but not knowing which palette each shade was coming from. So I could kind of mash all 3 of these palettes together, and then kind of like as I go, then we'll pop them out and see which shade and which palette I was actually using. So I'm gonna go ahead and just lay down a little bit of powder underneath my eyes to catch any fallout, because you know there's gonna be fallout today, and we'll go ahead and jump right into this. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this bone shade right here, and I'm gonna use that just to set my brow bone, and that's really powdery. This could be a subculture moment right here, but I'm gonna use that just to kind of set the brow bone and kind of bring that just into the top of the crease a little bit, where I'm gonna be blending out my transition shade. And just to give that something to blend into. And that shade was Tempera or Tempura, which I believe was in 2 palettes, was it not? Was this in Modern Renaissance and in Soft Glam? I believe it was in both. You know what? I just realized I said there were 3 palettes in this palette. There's actually 4, because Norvina is in this palette too. And I know that this shade is actually from the Norvina palette, which is what made me think of that. I'm like, all right, you're kind of dumb. And this is a really dusty shadow, so you definitely want to tap off the excess. God, Jesus. And then go ahead and press that into the crease. This is gonna be my transition shade. I'm gonna take that same shade and kind of press it into the lower lash line and just kind of smoke that out from there. Yeah, and this one definitely was from the Norvina palette. This is the shade Love. It says right there on the back. And then I want to deepen up the crease a little bit and add a little bit more of like this dusty rose or this mauve kind of color. So I'm going to dip into this shade right here. This one isn't crazy dusty the way that some of the other ones have been so far. So I'm still going to tap off the excess, and I'm going to start to stamp that right into the crease. And this brush is a Morphe M433, which is a really good dupe for the MAC 217. And it's a really affordable brush. I think this brush is only like maybe $6 or $7. And the funny thing about these Anastasia palettes is when you look at them like separately, like when you look at them individually, they all look completely different from one another. But then once you depot them and you put them all in a palette together, aside from like, you know, some of the greens and, you know, some of the pops of color and stuff, they really all look very similar to one another. So I don't think that you really need all of their palettes, because a lot of it is very much the same. And that shade was Dusty Rose, which I actually believe is also from the Norvina palette. And then on that same M433, I'm gonna dip into this more kind of burgundy brick kind of red. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start to lightly stamp that into the outer corner and kind of blend that into the crease so we can deepen up that area a little bit more. I just love the way that these kind of like plummy red, pink, kind of purple tones work with green eyes, and the way that they just like make green eyes pop. Now, I know that a lot of people always seem to think that I have blue eyes, because I think that they do show up a little bit more blue on camera, but in real life they are definitely green, and these kind of colors just really look good against those green eyes. Although I always wish that I had brown eyes, actually. I even wore brown contacts for a few years because I always wanted brown eyes. I think brown eyes are just so much prettier than green or blue or gray. They've always been my favorite. With some of these darker matte shades, I definitely feel like you have to kind of build them up and almost like stamp them in rather than blending back and forth, because I think the Anastasia shadows can be really patchy. Not just the Subculture palette, but all of them, I feel like they kind of go on a little bit patchy. So this shade was All Star, which is this one from Subculture. I feel like All Star is from Subculture, and it was just a little bit finicky. I think it still is a little bit patchy on the very outer corner, on this eye more than on this eye. And let's be honest, we already know what this one is. I'm gonna go into Love Letter. This is from Modern Renaissance. Let's kind of take that on the inner corner of the lid, in the inner and outer corners, and kind of blending that up into the crease, but not going above the crease. I want to keep this color on the actual lid. Then with a pencil brush, I'm just going to take Love Letter and just kind of brush that into the lash line. And then with that same pencil brush, I'm going to dip into another shade that I already know what it is because it's one of my favorites. This one is Rowdy from the Subculture palette. And I really like this color. It's actually very similar to the shade Vanity from the Jeffree Star Beauty Killer palette. I think that this one might be slightly warmer in tone, where Vanity almost has like a, almost like a charcoal, but like a cooler toned purple to it. And I've definitely heard where people just don't like this one as much. I feel like people have had problems with this color in particular out of the Subculture palette. And for me, it's really easy to work with. And I'm taking just a tiny bit of Rowdy on that brush, and to kind of blend it into the other shades just a tiny bit. And I think we have a pretty decent blend there. Especially considering that we're using like some of these more like problematic shadows. I think it did okay. So I almost want to go in with like the purple that I know is from the Norvina palette. But again, since I already know that it's from that palette, I'm going to kind of avoid it. I kind of want to put a gold to go along with like this red tone. I think that would look really pretty. And there's definitely like a lot of golds to work with, because I feel like there were a lot of golds with all of their palettes. So I am going to go in with this one right here, which is kind of like a bronzy gold, and it looks like I haven't actually used this shade yet. It looks pretty brand new. So I'm gonna go over top of the NYX glitter primer. I'm gonna apply that to the center of my lid, and then I'm gonna go over top of that with this gold shadow, because I think that it's really gonna make a nice contrast against like the red, the plums, this really dark stuff on the outer corner here. And I think it's just, again, I think it's really gonna pop right against that. I really fucking love that color. Let's find out what that one was. Okay, so this one was Bronze, which I believe was from Soft Glam. I'm not sure. I'll put it right here. I don't know. I do think that this purple shade from Norvina would work really well with everything that's already going on, which I know, like, you know, at this point is just kind of like adding more shit on top of more shit. But I think if we pop that color on the center of the lower lash line, I think that that could work really well. So let's go ahead and do it. If it looks stupid, it looks stupid, but maybe it'll look really cool, you know? Go ahead and put some of that glitter glue right in the center here. What do you guys think? I think that was a good choice. I like the way that that turned out. I like the way that goes with all the other colors that are going on already. And that shade was Celestial from the Norvina palette. And this look definitely calls for Night Moth Lip Pencil by MAC on the waterline. And then finally, to brighten up the inner corner, I'm gonna use this weird kind of like green shade from the Subculture palette, which I don't really think I ever got that much use out of. I can't even remember the last time I used it, if I've used it at all. So I think that that one's gonna go really well on that inner corner. And of course, we're gonna pop that right over top of the NYX Glitter Primer to give it a really nice sticky base. Okay, so that's the eye look complete. Let me go ahead and get some lashes, highlighter, lips on, and then I'll be right back with the final look. Okay, so I finished everything else up with this L'Oreal Waterproof Voluminous Carbon Black Mascara, the Back Talk lipstick from Urban Decay, and for my highlight, I used the ColourPop Super Shock Cheek in Smoke and Whistles. But yeah, that is the final look, and I'm super happy with the way that it turned out. Again, like going in and just kind of like blindly picking shadows and not really knowing where most of them were coming from was kind of fun, especially to just go in and use shadows that you don't really use a whole lot. And even the colors that I used from the Subculture palette, I think that they worked out really well for this look, especially using them in conjunction with other palettes that do work well and do blend out well. You know, it all worked, and I really like the way that this look turned out. But what do you guys want to see? Let me know down below. Is there like a certain palette that you want to see me work with? Is there just like a completely different kind of video that you want to see from me? Again, let me know down below. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.